Hi guys, I hope that you're all doing well. This is the last part under the May June 2025 paper. We're dealing with inventory. We have vacuum and pressure cleaners. Remember I told you guys that this is basically internal control or business advice. Required 3.6 vacuum cleaners. Identify one problem with the vacuum cleaners, quote figures. What advice would you give? State 1 point. You have 3.7, you have pressure cleaners. Explain 2 good decisions that Helen took in respect of pressure cleaners, quote figures. Explain how each decision improved the results on 20th of February 2025. Provide 1 point for each reason. Okay, you have our information here. That's all that we have to deal with. You basically have to study this entire table. Okay, let's look at our information. We have gross units sold. This is pressure cleaners. So here we have 2024, 29th of February 2024. We have the 28th of February 2025. So we go from here to there. This is old and that is recent. Okay, so under vacuum cleaners, in 2024, we have gross units sold. We sold 565 in 2024, then 532 in 2025. So the units that we sold decreased from 565 to 534. Number of units sold for cash, meaning the units that we sold in cash, the ones that they didn't buy on credit. Okay, we have 360 in 2024, we have 280 in 2025, that decreased. You have trade discount on sales, 5%, 5%, nothing changed. Number of units sold on credit, in 2024 we had 180 vacuum cleaners that were bought on credit. Then in 2025 we have 230 that increased. You have payment policy on credit sales, 90 days, nothing changed. Interest rate on credit sales, 18%, 18%, nothing changed. Returns by customers, 40 units, meaning the quality wasn't good. In 2024, they returned 15 vacuum cleaners. In 2025, they returned 22, so it increased. Markup percentage, you have 60% and 50%. And let's move to pressure cleaners. You have 2024, then 2025. So we start from here to there, we compare. Gross units sold, we then look at that information. Okay, we compare. Gross units sold, in 2024, we sold 584 pressure cleaners. And in 2025, we sold 704, which is a huge increase. Number of units sold for cash, we have 302 and 398. Then trade discount on cash sales, we have 5% and 10%. So we increased. The number of units sold on credit, we have 240 pressure cleaners that were sold on credit. Then in 2025, we have 270. The increased payment policy on credit sales, we have 240 and 270 that increased. Let's move to payment policy on credit sales. Excuse me, this should be 150 days and 120. So it decreased. Interest rate on credit sales, you have 18 and 15%. Returns by customers, 40 units. We have 42 and 36, so they decreased. Markup percentage, you have 60% and 40%. So we now understand our table. We had to study this information and understand what's going on. We're done with that. Now let's get back to our questions. This is 3.6. Required vacuum cleaners, meaning we focus on this information. Let me underline it. Vacuum cleaners. Okay, identify one problem with the vacuum cleaners. So let's look at our vacuum cleaners. What's something that you can notice here? We have gross units sold. We sold 565 and 532 in 2025. So the units decreased. We can also look at number of units sold for cash. I think that's something that really stood out when we went through this information. And it's about returns by customers, 40 units. It increased from 15 to 22. So I think that's the easiest thing to quote. It's straightforward. We could say that the units that the customers returned increased from 15 to 22. We quoted the figures. So the problem is that the quality of the vacuum cleaners wasn't good. Okay, we're done with 3.6. Now let's move to the second bullet point we have. What advice would you give? State points. People returned vacuum cleaners because there were faulty units. Okay, so what advice would you give to a business owner if, let's say you have your books okay? And you can see that you've been selling a certain product, then in the previous year, people returned a certain amount, and in the following year, people returned more units. What advice would you give, especially if they tell you that there are faulty units? You'd obviously have to check the product before selling it to customers or to supply quality goods. You basically have to, whenever you check your inventory, you'll have to make sure that the quality of a product is good. So that's the advice that you'd give, and it's out of 3 marks. I'll just discuss this with you guys. I don't think that I'll note anything down. When dealing with internal control or business advice, please use your brain. These are easy marks. Let's move to 3.7. You have pressure cleaners. So we're dealing with this part, pressure cleaners. Okay, what are the questions? Explain 2 good decisions that Helen took in respect of the pressure cleaner. Okay, let's look at our figures. Then they said quote figures. We're at pressure cleaners, meaning this part. Let's look. We have a gross units sold 584 to 704. That is an increase, which is a good thing. Number of units sold for cash from 302 to 398. That is also a good thing. Then trade discount on cash sales from 5% to 10%. So can you guys see that they increased the trade discount on sales? So your first point could be offering a higher trade discount for or on cash sales. Then to quote figures, you will say that it increased from 5% to 10%. So what's the second good thing that she did? Because they said explain 2 good decisions. So we explained this. There was a higher trade discount on cash sales. We also quoted figures. For number 2, we have explain how each decision improved the... No, we aren't done with the second one, actually. I'm sorry, we have to look for another good thing that she did. Let's look at information again. We have payment policy on credit sales. We have 150 to 120. It decreased. So we can say something like she changed the payment policy on credit sales from 150 days to 120 days. Or instead of saying changed, let's specify this and say that she decreased. Okay, she decreased the payment policy on credit sales from 150 days to 120 days. She basically tightened the debtor repayment window policies. So we quoted figures, this 150 and 120 days. Therefore, we have noted 2 good decisions so far. Now explain how each decision improved the results on 20th of February 2025. Meaning, for these specific reasons, we have to explain how it improved or bettered the results on the latest year, which is the 20th of February 2025. Guys, we said higher trade discounts on cash sales. So how did this impact our sales? We could look at our gross units sold and say that this increased cash flow, or the units sold, from 584 to 704 units. It increased the number of units that were sold from 2024 to 2025. So in short, you can just say that in 2025, we sold more units because of the high trade discount on cash sales. Or you could also quote this instead. Remember, in 2024, we sold 204 units in cash. And in 2025, we sold 398, which is an increase. We can also quote these figures, okay? Now let's move to the second point. We have decreased the payment policy on credit sales from 150 days to 120 days. So guys, when you decrease the number of days a customer is supposed to pay something on credit, how will that benefit your company? you'd reduce the number of bad debts, meaning people that don't pay. Because there's a tighter window, people will most probably pay sooner compared to later. So you can just say something about there'll be less bad debts or there'll be better debtors collection. That's a point that you can use under the second point about the credit sales. Or if you can think of any other valid reason, feel free to write that reason. So this is all out of, we have 3 and 6, which is 9 marks. So you most probably get 8 to 9 or the entire 9 marks. It just depends on how valid your reasons are. When you deal with internal control or business advice, please just use your brain. Try to be open-minded. These are free marks. So we're done with inventory. We did the FIFO, the specific identification method. We also did internal control. Notice how there's no weighted average. That's okay. You just have to work with what you're dealing with. So I'll do more question papers in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.